Here we go. What's going on, everybody? We're back here with another fantastic episode of Tuned Up and Tuned In.
Yes.
With Vin and Phil. That is correct.
The official name.
It feels good. It feels good.
Yeah. Yes. It's been too long. We've needed to just call it something.
We got a name. We've got a name now, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's going to stick. We're going to make people like it. They're going to like
it.
With
multiple meanings.
Exactly. I may not have partaken in that type of tuning up, but there's always some tuning up on this end. And that being said, we're ready to get right to it today. We got a good one for you guys. Vin and I, we like to jump around on topics, keep it fresh. And today we are going to be talking about solos, and really just solos that stuck out to us. And the only rule that we talked about was it could be on any instrument. It didn't have to be, specifically a guitar solo, and it doesn't have to be one that we know is critically acclaimed as an amazing solo. That's not what we were necessarily talking about. We were talking about ones that stick out in our brains as solos that are either great to us or important to us for a reason.
Right.
And so we've got some interesting ones for you, and this is going to be a good one. And we tend to do these in stretches of at least 2 or 3 episodes. I suspect we'll be doing at least 1 or 2 more on this one.
Oh, sure.
Sure. We're definitely going to have some guests coming in that are going to be able to give us some different perspectives, being it's cool that we all play different instruments, and so like naturally we may be drawn to different solos. But so anyway, before we dive into that, real fast, couple bullet points we always like to do. First and foremost, we have a playlist that is currently still just titled Vin and Phil Show. We will update that, but for now, if you go to Spotify and search Vin and Phil Show, there is a playlist that is up to date with all of the songs that we have talked about in other episodes and we'll be talking about in this episode today. And I suggest you follow along through the podcast and stop at any time and take a listen to the songs that we are talking about. It's really a great way to stay in touch with what we're really talking about. Next, Vin and I are both working musicians, and we could always use a little extra support, especially in a current situation. As things stand, gigs are certainly not happening very often. So we could use all the love and support we could get. We would appreciate it, and both of us have Venmo accounts, and if you feel like you got a little something extra that you might want to send our way, please do, but no pressure. Vin's Venmo account is at Vincent-Mott. That's M-O-T-T with 2 T's. Mine is at Phil-Silverberg, silver like the metal, B-E-R-G. And last on our list, Vin and I, also being working musicians, put out music consistently, which is pretty cool. And another way that you can support us if you don't feel like just sending money directly to us, which is totally cool. I'd almost prefer you go out and check our music out. And Vin has a new album out that he just put out, a new EP. I'm sorry, not EP. And and it's on
like sort of that in between area.
It's on all streaming services, but again, if you go to his Bandcamp, which will be linked here down in the description of the YouTube channel, you will be able to go directly to Bandcamp, and purchasing it is the most direct and beneficial way for him. Check it out. And I have a new track out under the artist name, my artist name, Lo-Fi, L-O-P-H-I, and the new song is called Oolong, and it is on all streaming services, so check that out. That's the bullet points. I think now it's time to dive in, Vin.
And also, that's Jerry in the background.
Jerry's trying to join the show.
Jerry is our special guest this week.
She is the friendliest dog there ever was, but there's one dog that walks around here that apparently she does not like. So she goes nuts, but then as soon as the dog walks away and she goes from going nuts, she starts whimpering like, oh, I wanted to just play, But it's very...
Oh, Jerry. I miss Jerry.
She's very confused, but, But yeah, that's Jerry, my dog. All right. Well,
all right.
Vin, before we dive totally into like the specific songs and stuff like that, I want to talk about just real fast, what makes a solo good to you?
Right. Well,
Obviously completely, it's an opinion based thing.
sure.
But I think I have an idea of at this point, I've studied enough solos. I think I have an idea of the ones that I'm typically drawn to.
Yeah.
So
I do too. I have a type.
right.
I have a type, and she's a cruel mistress.
And so it's really interesting to think about. I remember Mark Dollar, who was on our last episode. I remember him telling the students once, he kind of like demonstrated. He like ran it up to them and was like, "Hi, I'm Mark Dollar," and he was like all in their face and everything. He's like, that could be a type of solo. He's like, personally, and I personally prefer this way. I would prefer to walk up to a group and say, "Hey, everybody. Well, Phil, it's nice to meet you guys." And then and then maybe get into like, I'm a badass, and that's when I start. Maybe that's
You build your way up.
Yeah,
slowly.
maybe we don't go right to like, in your face, I'm a badass. But that's up to you. It depends on the style, and that's the whole thing. Is we could talk about that just alone for genre by genre, I suppose. But
Sure.
again, I ask you, what is it that you're drawn to?
So personally, I mean, obviously, as with my background in blues, I like blues scale, pentatonic scale stuff. Just sonically is,
Sure.
And as a student of music, I can give it a name like that. It sounds really nerdy, I know, but blues scale, pentatonic scale stuff, Mixolydian stuff is sonically like in the notes what I gravitate towards. Obviously, I mean that's like the ground for me.
Sure.
Some aspects of playing, I guess I'll talk especially in when I'm listening to guitar solos, because that I'm gonna talk about the obvious guitar solos today. But like what I like is is in their feel. It's got to have a certain type of feel, and everybody talks about feel, right? And people who don't even know what feel is talk about like, oh, he's got good feel, and that's all good and great, to say that. But like, guys, like there are definitely, it stands out to me when a guy has good feel for, and not even just blues, but just like have like a laid back kind of corner like pigeonholes what I'm saying, but like less is more attitude,
Sure.
And in a greasy kind of looser feel. I'm not like looking for perfection in like the like I'm not looking for perfect like let's say like attack, right? Mm-hmm. on the notes.
Right.
Sometimes I like solos that hit that attack right on the mark. Sometimes I like it where like, they're like kind of missing like every three notes. You know what I mean? Like a greasiness to it.
Yeah, it's still a rough around the edge. But
why I like people like, let's run the gauntlet, the spectrum.
Sure.
It's why I like traditional jazz from New Orleans.
Okay.
It's why I like Keith Richards.
Sure.
It's why I like James Brown as a singer. It's why I like
there's life to it.
All of the blues. It's a real motherfucker speaking street talk to me.
Sure.
When like a guy has that feel, that's how I would describe the feel that I'm looking for. It's not just like having good feel in general is important, and I like a well-rounded musician who can do all sorts of things. But even if a dude does one thing good, it's always about the feel for me.
Sure. I guess it kind of the way that I was talking about how Mark talked about it is it's a conversation Right.
Yeah.
For me, if I think about, I try to contain myself to think about the voice. And this is why jazz musicians, everybody has to sing their solos first. And it's really just a great practice, because the reality is you learn how to take a breath.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the hardest thing for young musicians, or, musicians that are becoming advanced, that are stepping into learning how to really solo, and they can blaze through riffs. And initially, that's all it is. It's exciting to be able to do that, of course.
Yeah.
But we know as musicians that are now a little bit more seasoned than that's not always where it's at. I love the idea of so piano players have 10 fingers most of the time, typically, right? Not going to say all the time, typically, and we often want to figure out how to, maybe not. There's a natural instinct to want to use a lot of fingers.
Yeah. I can see that.
Right? What I try to remember and imitate is when I played saxophone, I'm limited to single notes at a time. So the idea of soloing is totally different. How I would go about soloing, I have to think about different. It has to come from an entirely, I guess, melodic idea, related to the harmony, of course. But I'm playing a melody over it, a single line, whereas I have so much else. But on the piano, we don't have any way to bend notes, and so I love ways of playing the same note, but making it sound different, even though that's not really possible. But just by grace noting a half step below it, and then grace noting two half steps, one half step and then another right after it, and grace noting, and then just that kind of thing. And it's not even a technical skill. I don't even mean like I'm for sure that I'm not a guy that's like, it's got to be about the technique. That's for damn sure.
Right.
That's not me. I like I said, I really like. And at the solo I'm going to talk about today, I guess I won't reveal it just yet. But I think the reason I love this solo in particular is that the conversation thing that I'm talking about is there. To be able to make a statement, restate it, take a breath, an actual shape to a solo. It's not just give me all the notes you can think of. You may be totally improvising, but give it some shape. It needs to go somewhere, even if it's all single notes, even if it's all quiet, even if it's 3 notes through the whole solo. You know what I mean? But like you said, that's that feel. Like, because people who haven't experienced what we're talking about might go, "What are they talking about? 3-note solo? That's not going to be impressive." I can assure you that Vin and I can both find a bunch of songs right now where there's 3 notes that happen that you're going to go, "Holy crap! That I didn't realize how important that those 3 notes were."
I always get that feeling when I watch like an old timer,
Oh, yeah,
where
man.
like an old timer plays like it's like slow, but not slow in timing. It's like
it
they
is
just
so
have
precise.
There's so much depth,
every move is with intention.
Yeah,
100%.
Every move is
The
with
best,
intention.
to be completely honest with you, I've seen it 1,000 times, but the place that the first time I like really, really saw it, and it's because this guy that I'm about to name drop is such a big name that like it makes sense, But when I got to sit in with Bernard Purdy, his little fills were one hit. It wasn't.
Yep.
It wasn't even rum dum. It was just dum dum. And it felt like maybe it was that out of time, and I can assure you it was not, because it was where he wanted it exactly.
Yep.
But and again, that's that definitely comes. That's that sage wisdom that I think really great musicians find at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It takes time, it really is. It's unfortunate. Like, I don't want to sound like a highbrow, but there's no other way to get to that other than, be that young kid who shows up at the notch and plays a whole lot of notes real loud. and find out that everybody says nice job.
Yeah, the thing is, you want to learn from that shit. You know, you want to learn. If that's you want to learn from it. So,
right. Yeah. No, that's the thing. If you start to pick up on that and you go, oh man, so what is it that they don't like? They like what he does. I'm playing a lot more notes than him. Oh.
Yeah, right. Right.
Well, that being said, man, like I said, I just wanted to preface it with a little bit of conversation about
oh my God.
what
I
is
feel
a
like
good
I
solo.
could just continue with that the whole time.
Well, feel free to chime in, along the way when you're talking about yours. What there's obviously going to be things that are important to you about the things you're talking about. So
right.
So by all means,
yeah,
take it away, dude.
Well, just kind of like you were saying with Bernard Purdie. For me, I get that. Like the first time I noticed that like feeling. Or noticed that I was noticing that feel was it when I saw this guy. His name's Sonny Rhodes. And he's like a real old school. He's actually from this area down here in close to Austin, Texas. But he made his name out in the West Coast in the Bay Area. And he's like, I don't know how old he is. Late 70s, 80s, maybe older. I have no idea. But somebody out our way in New Jersey brought him out there. I don't know. And so it was back a few years ago, multiple years, like probably like 4 or 5 years ago now. I forget it. I think it may have been. It wasn't my birthday, but it was around that time. Anyway, I was playing with this rockabilly band at the time, and we were doing these like once a month Sunday, like swing dances,
Sure.
And down at Roxy and Duke's. And so we were like the afternoon show, and then there was always some other show after us. And this one time, so we're like, it's getting towards the end of the gig, and I see Bob Lanza walked in to Roxy and Duke's, and that's his neck of the woods down there. But
sure.
Like I was like, well, what the hell is he doing here? So we finish. Talk to him like, yo, man, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, dude, I'm playing with Sonny Rhodes in the next show. Wow. I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I wasn't supposed to be on the gig, but they like called me last minute, and that like just like an hour ago, so now I'm here. So I'm like, oh shit. And so like, you've played at Roxy and Duke's before, right?
Yeah.
So like, like the backstage area. It's not really backstage area.
Yeah.
But like I had the chance to like sit with Sonny for like almost like an hour and like just listen to him talk about the road and being an old blues musician. But when he got on stage and he plays a lap steel, just like a little board, with a pickup.
Yeah.
And oh my God. Like, and he even like, there were a couple of times he would like make eye contact with me, and like he almost like knew it was like ridiculous. It was like the place was like half empty, and it was like me and Dean who stuck around to watch, because we were like, fuck, dude, Sonny Rhodes is right here, dude. And then like, a handful of like random Jersey people. But like he would even like make contact with me, and all he would do is just go boop. And he'd like look at me and go like boop. Like or like but like that's all his shit was. Like it'd be like a hard Texas shuffle going boom 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 boom, and he just go boop. You know what I mean? It was just like one-liners, know. And that's that's that feel, man. I thought he had that right feel for as a soloist, just that old school vibe. I mean, anything old school, and that too, you find it more so with older generations that are now disappearing because time goes on,
Sure.
But like, that's why it's important to support those guys, anyone who's around, who's, your elders in the music community. Like support them now and try to watch them as much as you can, now, because they're all going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you find that feel is more common with older cats, and I mean, it's hard to say why exactly that is, but I mean, it's just closer to root, the roots of it, I guess. And and you can get it if you really study. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's not unobtainable.
Right.
This like feel.
Yeah, but you have to.
And there's degrees of that feel, of this feel too.
Right. But you have to be fully immersed in that to be able to understand that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to really be a student of the music to get it. But all right, I digress. Let me jump in. I really don't have much to talk about, but I did when the word soloing and solos came up. I thought of a guy who I think most people wouldn't think of as a solo, like a guitar soloer. Even though he's the only guitar player in this band, to most extent, 75% of it at least, because this band does like to swap instruments sometimes.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that I think is totally underrated as a guitar soloer. He has, some of the world's greatest songwriting credentials, and he played with one of the world's greatest rock bands of the 60s and 70s. He is none other than Robbie Robertson from the band. And Robbie was a guy that, the way I got into the band has a very special place in my heart. They're one of my favorite bands for sure. I know I say that about every band, but it's always true.
No, yeah. Yeah, well, we particularly are talking about things that are like an artist that
yeah, exactly. I didn't pick this guy for no reason.
Right.
When I first got into the band, through my friends at my first year at Berkeley, like Alex Tierney. People out there have heard me mention Alex Tierney, and he was like a super fan of the band. He liked like all the bands of that era, Grateful Dead and shit, and everything else that comes with that. But the band was his calling card. He made it known when you first met him, like, my favorite band is the band. My favorite guitar player is Robbie Robertson. And he was a killer, man. Alex Tierney was a killer left-handed guitar player, but he could play Robbie's parts and call out any band song, he could do it. He had like that Robbie feel, and he played strats, and but I didn't immediately fall in love with the band. I liked the songs I knew from classic rock radio,
right?
And I liked some of the up-tempo tunes that I had never heard prior to meeting Alex Tierney. But I hated at first the ballads. I couldn't stand the ballads, and they, over time have become actually some of my favorite band tunes. And just everything the band does is gold in my eyes. They're amazing. They were amazing group of musicians. So about Robbie, he's Canadian, obviously, Canadian descent. Learned guitar at a very early age from family members on an Indian reservation. I think most people who know Robbie know that he's part Native American, or whatever you call that, First Nations people. Is that what it is now?
I no longer have any idea what the appropriate word is.
Me too.
We mean no offense.
I think they call them First Nations in Canada.
Okay. Oh, right. Because that's right. Right. Because he's not. Got you.
Yeah. Because he's Canadian.
Right. Understood.
So we learned guitar from a really young age. I just think that he's got a lot of cool stuff about his background, like that aspect. And he worked as like a carny for like a year or two in a traveling carnival, and he has like an obsession with carnivals and carnies and shit. Which is totally like off the beaten path, but that's like one of the things that makes me fall in love with this guy, He's obviously super influenced by blues guitar players and R&B guitar players and early rock and roll guitar players, rockabilly stuff. The way the band formed was through a guy named Ronnie Hawkins, who was a rockabilly band leader. from Arkansas, and that's how Levon was the earliest to be involved with Ronnie. And but over the years, I think because I read Levon's book back when I was in college, and so when Ronnie Hawkins was touring, it was like at the very tail end of like the 50s, and rockabilly was starting to die out here in the United States. But for some reason back then, the way Levon describes it is amazing, that popular music in the U.S. would be popular in Canada like 5 years later, for whatever reason that is. He said it was consistent that way. So like naturally they would start touring in Canada more as this band's career went on. And so they picked up all the other guys in the band, Robbie, Garth, Rick, and Richard. And so that's how they came together. And Robbie was originally hired on. I think he was a roadie for them for like a little while, and then Ronnie hired him as a bass player. Actually, knowing that he was a guitar player and working on playing guitar, right. He like hired him as a bass player instead. And I think that there may have been something about that. I forget, but so. More about Robbie's playing, okay, and again, too, for those of you who know of Robbie Robertson and the band's history, you could have any opinion about the man himself. I think most people think he's a complete dick for the business end of what happened with the band.
Not the best guy in some ways.
Not the best guy in some ways, in most people's eyes, mine included, to be honest. But nonetheless, just one of the most killing guitar players and most, like I said, underrated guitar players. Everything I talked about from the beginning of this episode is true in his feel, in the note choices and the scale choices, in his tone. Everything is true in Robbie. His style of soloing is very greasy and very loose. You'll hear in any given song, like first of all, he always comes in like real sly, and real like subdued, and like slick, he's like a slick guy at the beginning, but then he like kicks it in the overdrive and like digs in on like Chuck Berry style double stops and shit like that. He's a master at bringing like the energy up and down and putting it in these obscure places, like almost on the edges, on the fringes of like musical emotion in a way, if that makes sense. Could just be just a total stoner, but that was like pretty stoner of me.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah.
He knows how to like touch, how to like massage the song. And with that being said, he's probably, in my opinion, one of the best solo players that plays completely for the song. He's not flashy and he's not technical, but he's right. Nobody has ever hit the nail on the head harder than he has, in a way that even on a solo, it supports the song. He's got perfect imperfection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but well, and again, that's that feel. That's it's an impossible thing to really quantify for people. But if there are little things that that help get there, and that's one of it. Is like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to dive in too far, but a guy like Jimmy Page. I think that's what
almost the same thing for me too, where I for the longest time I was like, Led Zeppelin. I mean, I'm still not a super fan, but I appreciate them so much more now.
It's
the more,
again, that's
the more
that's
I
what
hear
makes
Jimmy Page, the more I'm like, this is totally my thing.
that's again, and I think we can talk forever about Zeppelin, of course, but that's what I think each of those guys were obviously exceptional, but they were also had that little rough around the edge thing that made them like no other, and together it made them Led Zeppelin.
Sure.
But anyway,
Robbie's obvious influences, I think, from listening to his solos. I think even though he was active at the same, not the band, but Robbie himself was playing guitar at the same time, not on the same size stages maybe, but I think it's obvious you hear Steve Cropper in his playing from Stax, the Stax house band, as well as Chicago blues and rockabilly greats. Just he's a perfect amalgamation of a few different things that just makes for like that, like I said, sly, like slick and greasy are words that like I think I wrote like 10 times here. Very twangy and jangly tone. He used Fender Strats and Telecasters, I believe, is what he's mostly known for playing, which obviously if you're going for twangy and jangly, I think the Tele and the Strat, you can't go wrong with that.
I mean, Telly is woo.
I kind of touched on this before, but his phrasing can't be beat. His solos are constantly serving the song. It's never over the top. It's understated. That's the word I think I've been looking for all along. He's completely understated. Each note equally shining as well as supporting the music. He's amazing. So some notable solos. I did talk with Alex Tierney today, and we're gonna try and get him. Yeah, I phoned a friend in, but not because I didn't already feel this way.
No. Well,
like I said, the idea to talk about Robbie is all mine.
No.
And this is a band where, like, kind of like the Stones for me, I'll go through like a 3-month binge on like nothing but this in my car, and that's probably what's going to happen after today. But notable solos to listen to, Don't Do It off the Rock of Ages album. The Rock of Ages album is probably my favorite live album of any band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll put it down like that. And not only is it my favorite live album of any band, but it's better than The Last Waltz. I said that too.
They're gonna
the
shut
movies.
up.
I mean, I like that the movie was made.
Vin, if you say things like that, they're gonna just shut the podcast down.
Yo, I
they're
don't
just
care.
gonna just
I don't give
take
a
us off.
fuck. You can all fucking suck it.
They're just gonna shut us down.
Rock of Ages is the best band album.
Okay.
Period.
Hey, I am not here to fight or argue.
Robbie's solo, like all these solos too, because like when Alex started naming them, I'm like, oh yeah, these are all the songs that either we used to play together or like you used to just play when we would be like sitting around drinking beer and watching TV. Fucking Don't Do It off Rock of Ages, which I think is also a Marvin Gaye cover.
Sure.
King Harvest off Rock of Ages, and really it's the same solo that he plays almost note for note from Rock of Ages to the band self-titled record. But on the Rock of Ages version, he just digs in so much more than on the record, and there you get two sides of his playing. Like on the record, he's more sly and slick and like kind of creeping around the notes, where on Rock of Ages he's Chuck Berry, you know. Sure. Ophelia from The Last Waltz, Jawbone, dude, the Jawbone might be my favorite of all his solos, and me and Alex talked about it too. There's this one part where he plays these 3/4 note double stops in a row, like right on top of the beat. It's like he's coming down, it like sounds like he's like ending a theme song or something. But it's like, it's when you hear it in context, you know, that's out of context. When you hear it in context,
it's the perfect thing.
It's the perfect thing. Like if you played anything, if you were covering this song and didn't play that part exactly that way, you'd be fucked. You're not playing the song.
Just as a point to note, we should definitely do that as an episode, because we all know that there are certain songs.
There's certain songs
you can't, like, you got to just play this part. And if you don't play that part, like every other part,
Here's an obvious one. Here's an obvious one everyone knows. Hotel California. You don't play that fucking solo, note for note. You're not playing the song. Free Bird, you know, the ones people yell at you, you know, at the gig. Free Bird. If you were gonna do it, you couldn't do it if you didn't play it. No,
you know what, the one that sticks out in my mind then, if that were the solely it would be Sweet Child of Mine. And because there's actually, I mean, there's like more than one solo in that. There's like a double. Like
yeah,
it
but
goes
you
through
can
different
sing
sections.
those solos as like a non-musician, you know?
Right? And so, and that's the answer is like if somebody knows if somebody else can sing them that well and you don't play them, they're gonna be like, that wasn't it.
Right. You'd be like, that was good. You played the solo wrong. Like even some like jerk off drunk,
Right. Whereas,
some like drunk chick at the fucking.
Whereas if you're playing, you know, over some classic rock tune or obviously a, you know, Grateful Dead tune or something like that, that's a whole other story.
Right. You can take some bigger liberties.
Whatever you want to do.
That song though, Jawbone's got that fucking fire. Jawbone 2. We should really talk about that tune itself one day in another when we touch on like, you know, chord stuff or time signature stuff.
Sure, we'll make it
Jawbone is
episode 14.
Got crazy shit going on.
Episode 14. Why not? You know.
Yeah, that's about it. And Kingdom Come was another one off music from Big Pink. That's got a really interesting solo at the end of it. Kingdom Come too. They really. I don't think that one's on the. It's definitely not on the Last Waltz. I don't think, or the Rock of Ages. Did they do it on the Last Waltz? No, I don't think so. Kingdom Come. That tune's striking, you know what I mean? I don't know. Go listen to it.
What album was it?
Go on the playlist and listen to it.
I will.
Big Pink, music from Big Pink.
I was gonna say
Strike 2.
I was gonna say I think you know I was extra. You remember last summer with the Mike Montre band got to stay at Big Pink.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
And we got to play a song or two down there and down in the basement.
That's dope.
I think we played "I Shall Be Released."
That's my funeral. That's my wake song,
dude. Well,
I don't want a wake or a funeral, but you could play that song in.
Imagine playing down in the basement
party you have.
You know, imagine playing down in the basement of the Basement Tapes, playing that song where it was probably first ever played. You know, like I think that one might have. There's a few that
that's on Big Pink.
Yeah, but there's some of the songs weren't necessarily written there. They may have been recorded. Some of them were started in different places here or there.
Oh, okay.
So like, but there's a few songs that were like conceived there, you know, which are cool.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's Robbie Robertson for you from my view. And next time we talk about the band, we got to get Alex Tierney on, man. I'm telling you, there's no bigger.
It's for me that they were. I know it sounds crazy. Obviously, I knew about them. And again, they were a band that I had not delved deeply into until really with playing more with Montre a lot more. I obviously again like you were saying before the I knew deeper than just the like big hits, you know, like I knew I was deeper than that, but I didn't know the Basement Tapes really well. I didn't know music from Big Pink and stuff like that. You know, like,
I still really don't know the Basement Tapes as well as I should. But
I mean, it's interesting.
All the band's studio albums and basically all the albums they put out before from up to the Last Waltz when they were in their original form is what I know from Big Pink up.
We should definitely get Mr. Tierney on.
Yeah, man.
Educate me some more. That's what I need to get educated.
Really, he should have been here today talking about Robbie. This is his topic. Man.
We'll get him on here, man. We'll make it happen.
Right.
Like we said, we'll set the date. Episode 15. Well, I guess if you're ready, I guess I'll take the helm.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I guess real fast in between, just a reminder to everybody, feel free to check out that playlist while you're following along. Vin just named a bunch of songs. We'll make sure that those are on the playlist. Really a bunch of great stuff. And you probably haven't considered the band and thought, oh, great guitar solos. That's probably not the first thing that pops in your head.
Oh man, one other point too.
Nope,
They're always
nope.
short. They're always short solos.
They're always short solos.
He got it in there anyway. His time was up. It's not fair. It's not
Fuck
fair.
'em.
So, well, I am going to talk about a solo that is very important to me on many levels. And, you know, if I was going to talk about a solo, it's not even a question about which one I would do for myself in my head. And today I'm going to talk about Jessica by the Allman Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
This song, I'll give you a quick little background. I think then you probably know, but I'll fill everybody else in. My father is the reason I am so very much in love with this song. My father, when this song first came out, said he heard the song and just had an image of a dog running through the woods. And he went and got a dog and named the dog Jessica. And that was his first dog. And I never met Jessica, but from everybody I have ever heard that did meet Jessica, she was on a whole other level of incredible dog. Like, as amazing as Jerry is, people are still like, Jessica was like something else. So the song is in my family just important. That's ignoring the solo. But the solo for me, because the song was already important for me, became a hurdle, a marking point for myself that I think was a turning point in my career as a player when I started to feel like, you know what? I'm a pro. I am now a professional musician. This is one of my favorite solos. I didn't think I could do this, and I can fucking do this.
Yes.
And it
Victory.
was... I remember I was stressing out about it, learning for this gig, and we actually didn't even play it on the gig. I spent weeks, 2 weeks, crunching this in, learning every note of the solo, every note of the song, and I get to the gig and didn't even play it.
God damn it!
But I don't regret that at all, because it was, like I said, it became a great point for me, and it's one that I then started to use the same way for a lot of my students when I felt that they had hit a certain point. That they should dive into something on another level and not even really know that I was that for me it was this hurdle, and they're doing it at 13 and I did it at 20, It's like,
I remember you did. I think you've told me that like you've said, like, I got Jackson on.
Yeah,
Jessica. Learning the Jessica's, or whoever,
exactly.
Whoever at the time.
No, exactly. I've got 2 students doing it right now, and again, it's just, for me, it's a marking point. I know if they can play this, then I know I can just show them anything. You know what I mean? Like, you need to go through that wall to recognize, wow, I'm a bad dude. Like, I can play this. Because you listen to this solo and you go, that is a beautiful solo. Holy crap! And this solo, I guess. Now, to dive in real fast into why I like it, and then I'll give you some real quick history on the song, break it down. But the solo is, like I was saying before, from my end, is a conversation, and a total education on making a phrasing and bringing a melodic idea, and then restating it with a slight different taste, and then building on it, and then building on it, and then flipping on it. And it has rhythmic, he goes through different rhythmic changes to make you feel the slow down and speed up of certain things just by going to triplets here, or quarter notes there, or eighth notes here. And I think that's another thing, is the push pull that a soloist can, that they make when you have to take the ride with them. And you know where the solo is going, even though nobody knows where the solo is going, because they're making it up on the spot. And you can hear from what they're doing that what's coming next. I think that's what happens here, and it starts, again, if we want to get real technical, for about a solid large chunk of their beginning is all A major pentatonic straight up. all A major pentatonic, not a blues note in there.
Yeah.
And then for me, the standout point is when it gets to the back half of the solo and the blues licks start coming in.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's the moment. You know? Exactly. That's the moment. And that's
man.
and that was something that was so important for me to learn. First of all, I was using the major and minor third. You know, again, I'm not trying to get all academic on everybody, but like I had somebody taught me the blues scale, and it had never occurred to me that I was just playing the minor third always and that I could use the major third. You know, it was more, and not until I started to play a whole lot more with you guys and start to really listen to a lot more blues and go, that's what makes the blues so cool, is that you get to use this major and minor third at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But by holding it off that whole time, it builds this beautiful, beautiful melody, and it almost comes out, and you're not expecting to then all of a sudden it comes in with this excitement, and it's just that. I can't ask for a better teaching tool to demonstrate how to shape a solo and to create that moment. You know, that's what music's all about. Is how, you know, every songwriter has to think about that moment, the shape of your song. Why this pre-chorus, the melody needs to go down because it needs to support this chorus that's up here. You know what like help. There has it goes back to having a shape. We need to create that moment, and I think that this solo just does it so amazingly.
Yeah, it is a beautiful solo. Kind of, you know, this song kind of conjures images of my dad too. You know what I mean?
Cool, man.
My dad is definitely I'd say a big. Well, I would say my dad, like, one of the areas of music he really likes is Southern rock, you know? So, I mean, like, all growing up sitting in his pickup trucks, you know, riding shotgun in his pickup trucks, driving up to the lake or something in West Milford, or, you know, going somewhere in Sussex County or something.
There's nothing wrong
going to a
with
Cardinals game as a little kid, you know?
Nothing wrong with some Southern rock, man.
Like,
certainly not the Allman Brothers.
Jessica would be on the radio, you know, just barely coming in from New York. You know? At that point, going over the mountains and going to the Skyline Stadium, you know.
I mean, there's something to be said. I just skipped over the whole fact that the song is an instrumental. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even mention that, and that's an important thing to remember. Like,
well, people who know it, you don't have to.
Of course, but at the same time, it is something to note. Like, here's this band. This is their only. They have like one or two songs that are just instrumentals. I think. Like Elizabeth Reed doesn't. I don't think has any lyrics either. There's a couple, and they're great. They're great songs. They're all really incredible instrumentals. But this is one that just sticks out as like, you know, a super famous song that's just an instrumental. Now,
and it's cool, like you said too, how he kind of shows you the light side and then he shows you the evil.
Oh yeah, no, it's so cool. So to talk a little background on it, first and foremost, the piano player on it is Chuck Leavell. So people who don't know Chuck Leavell and the Allman Brothers, Greg Allman is the organ player, famously, and he plays on this song as well. But Chuck was a studio musician, but had a couple of runs with different bands, including the Stones. He's on some really great Stones records that you probably are like, who's playing piano? He's playing piano on a couple of those Stones records. Maybe I'll throw a couple of those on the list too. It's just a couple tunes that
just
are like,
do it,
because I think people would be surprised as to how many songs you're like, oh, that's why I love all of these songs. And he had his own band too, which is called Sea Level. He might still be playing. I actually don't know too much of their music. I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be my thing. I'm afraid to ruin Chuck Leavell for myself. I don't want to find out it's like proggy, which is not really my thing. No offense to anybody who's into prog stuff. It's just not really my style. Yeah. But anyway, the song was written by Dickie Betts, actually, who, again, I don't know, I'm just filling people in who don't know the Allman Brothers that well. Obviously, there are the brothers of the Allman Brothers. Dickie was the other most important member and really like co-founder, and essentially one of the main songwriters, if not the main songwriter of at least a bunch of songs. And this one was one that Dickie wrote. And I'm going to pull up some notes real fast from the last time I read anything about it. If I remember correctly, I know for sure that it was a tribute to Django Reinhardt. It was supposed to have this bouncy gypsy feel. And if I remember correctly, also, so Betts wrote the majority of Jessica at the band's farm in Juliet, Georgia. This is just off of Wikipedia, just making sure I cite my sources for anybody who's like...
Anything you hear me say is off fucking Wikipedia.
Well, I mean, I check multiple sources, but in terms of like a quick glance on this stuff, this is... I expect that most of this is at least validated. But so he was watching his daughter, who was an infant at the time, and she was bouncing along to the rhythm that he was playing. And so the bouncy, fun, lightness came from that.
Yeah.
And so that it's a really cool, I think that's a cool thing to think about.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit more perspective and might help connect why I think a lot of people have a similar connection to this song like you and I do. There's, and my father, same thing. There are
right.
None of, maybe we don't see
kind of tied
exactly the
into
same.
it.
Yeah, we may not see exactly the same images, but there is clearly some kind of connection to the type of memories that it has for us.
Yeah.
It did not receive a whole lot of chart success, but that's not a surprise. It's fairly long, and the album version is 7 minutes and 28 seconds. The single version is 4 minutes.
It's definitely like once it like became classic rock radio, it
blew up,
gained all the notoriety it needed.
Yeah, well, that and it might have been one of those tunes that was was a great on the album song. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't supposed to be the single. It was, I guess it was issued. I guess it was issued as a single. I don't know what. I guess it was supposed to be, but in my opinion, it was never really meant to be a single. It really should have just been an album track, I guess. Because we're saying the same thing. It ended up getting picked up in popularity at some point.
It added to the lore.
So let's see. Yeah, no, I mean, like I was saying before, Chuck joined the band for a while. It was pretty much after Duane Allman died when Chuck started. They like filled in some of the parts by adding a keyboard player, another keyboard player, and that kind of stuff. So that's what happened. That's where the song came from. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much more to talk about on that side of things. It was really in terms of like the recording, but like I said, in terms of analyzing the solo, real fast, the whole song actually is it's kind of interesting. It's mostly revolves around this A major stuff. Like I said, A major pentatonic, essentially goes back and forth between A major and D major for a majority of it. There's some really great sections where the whole band jumps on these lines, these tag lines, which is pretty much a staple of the Allman Brothers. I think it was really that they had it sounds like to me, and from hearing some of their live stuff, that they probably had specific lines that they knew were going to be their triggers to get in and out of solos and back into sections here or there. And you hear them often play it once, twice, 3 times sometimes. The first time is often the musician, the soloist cueing people, making sure everybody on the stage and is aware of what's about to happen. Hit it together another time, and then maybe a third time if they're not sure everybody's together yet. It's 2 times if we're good, 3 times if we're not yet. And then everybody gets back into the solos. There's one particular section of the solo. Oh, well, I guess before we even get to the solos, so then there's a section where it goes back and forth between G and A, right. So that whole part's G A G A G A, and then when it does the build going so that happens over G, then E major, 5 chord of the A to get us back into the A, and that re-cues the whole start of it again. And interestingly enough, that line going up is kind of a to get. I'm going to talk a mode for people who say I'm such a hater.
All right,
it is. I believe I'm probably going to say it wrong. You're going to tell me I'm wrong. I believe it is A Dorian is essentially what they do. So it would
that's
be
a
like
Sean Ronan question.
It would be like a G scale. I believe, again, I might be wrong. It's like playing a G scale, but starting on A. So it's just going to have the F sharp going up. I believe that's correct. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. And I will admit to you that I don't care about the modes. Not that I don't care. That's wrong. That's wrong. Never mind. Another discussion, another day. But I know how to play that riff. So it's got an F sharp. Play the F sharp. But it has an F sharp, and then and it's kind of a call and response kind of thing, actually, because it's like do da boo da do da do da, right? Another staple of the Allman Brothers. We hear that in Whipping Post. We hear it's a common thing that they did. Then. The leading into the solo, the breakdown, again, the whole song is just so cool. It just drops out.
That's my favorite part.
It just drops out, and it's just the acoustic and the hand drums. It's just little hand drums and just the acoustic, and then it doesn't even come in with the hand drums right away. It's just, I guess it's just the guitar, and then the hand drums in, and then the piano comes back in quietly. And you can just feel it starts to build. And every time I hear this part, I feel like, again, if I was in the studio, you can just see that they're all like looking at each other, like feeling this solo is about to happen. You feel like they're looking at each other like, all right, you good? You're ready? And you feel it happen. And then he comes right in. Now, this isn't exactly like I was saying where it would come in like you were saying, kind of Robbie Robertson's Slick and Sly, where it's like, it's not
like Slick and Sly.
It's not a single note, like, no, he comes right in with a little chromatic round, right? It's not, but it's very Southern rock. It's very Southern country almost, you know what I mean? Well, again, he's imitating that Django Reinhardt kind of gypsy stuff. But yeah, then you get the whole solo, and then it comes out of the solo into a key change. Actually, the song switches to D, essentially for this whole for the guitar part. Right, and then, again, that's another one of those A pen. Right, and now and what a genius way to get to another key. You don't even feel it happen.
Yeah,
you know, it's amazing. It really is. That's why it really is such a wonderful piece of music. Then they find a way back to the A major again after that, right? The guitar does its solo, and then it gets back to resetting on the A, and then that's like how they ride that out for the rest of the song. And then there's the ending, just the slow. There's one part of the solo I skipped over this part on purpose. There's one part of the solo that's really the hardest thing for me to teach. And it's because, and you'll know what I'm talking about, and maybe you can help me figure it out actually, I call it the rabbit hole, because it's the section of the solo where he's playing, like, it's almost like a 3/4 thing is happening. Like the riff that he's playing is like an ostinato rhythmically happening over the chords that are still happening in time the way that they were. And it's 8 bars, but if I were to try and write out the rhythm of what he's doing, it would be really hard for me to try and figure out what it is. And so when students ask me how to explain this, I
can't picture what part that is.
All right, so it does the octave runs.
Is it after the Little Richard licks? The blues licks?
No, it's before that. No, before
way
that.
before that?
Not way before that, but before that.
Is it like...
No, that's a great part.
That
Again
thing?
and again, in
That's
learning
an
sections,
awesome part.
that's all A major pentatonic runs, and it's the same riff 4 times, but first time is done in groups of 3, and then the second time is groups of 2, and then it has a chromatic. It's that again. It's genius stuff of how to shape it. But that's then after that, then it does the octave stuff. It does a bunch of high octave runs. I can't even right now. I can't think of it. And then it goes. But anyway, there's this. If you hear it, then when you take a listen to the song, you'll go, "Oh, I know what he was talking about." And it's like I said, it's just. Oh, you're listening now.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like an over the bar line thing.
Exactly. And he's just playing it like and so when students ask me how to try and play that or how to practice it, I'm like, honestly, it's one of those things that you have to do with a band. You could try and either play with the song. If you try to play with a metronome, it's just not going to work the same way.
It feels like it's in 3. One, like if it were going to start on the down, I don't know if it starts on the downbeat, but the rhythm of it is like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and.
But the bass and everybody else is still doing
it's in 4. So it's like if it started on 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and
so it's a 3 over 4
3 and 1.
right?
It's hard to keep track.
Right? So 3 over 4 would be
3
correct.
over 4. Yeah, 3 over
right.
4.
That's always how I refer to it.
polyrhythm.
I wasn't sure, but that's always how. And again, like I said, trying to explain that how to actually play that is really hard to do. If you it's one of those things like with a band. Everybody feels that pull together and that they're holding it together. That's what makes that moment special and it's really, really cool when you have those moments in a jam, and scary. And that's what makes it cool because it's like, which part do I jump on? Do I hold the ground? Or do I jump on the 3 part? Or do I jump on the 4 part? Or do I just like lay out?
Go for the 3. Come on, don't be a pussy. Go for the 3.
But yeah, that's just a really cool section. And again, like I said, just different rhythmic ideas, different melodic ideas, the same melodic idea twisted through, just wonderful stuff. If you don't know that solo, check out Jessica. A bunch of other great stuff.
Piano solo in the middle, man.
Yeah, it's and like I said,
it's a beautiful one.
I'll include some other some Chuck Leavell stuff, and obviously those of you that don't know the Allman Brothers, if you're like, I don't like Southern rock, go give these guys a chance.
The Allman Brothers and the band go together, so just listen to both the Allman Brothers and the band, and you'll hear everything we're talking about.
Give these guys a chance. I promise. I promise you, if you're willing to listen, you'll find something that you'll love. So. But I think that just about wraps it up for us.
Yes, sir.
I guess before we go, first of all, we're going to absolutely do another one of these episodes. And like we said, we're going to absolutely get some guests on here that can help talk about these solos and from a different perspective. And Vin, maybe, I'd love to, I don't know if there are any of these that exist for you, but I don't know, is there a standout drum solo, harmonica solo,
well, actually, as we started the episode, I made a note for myself in my notes for today of who and where and when I want to talk about next week.
Good.
And I'll give you a hint. It's not a guitar solo.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome. That's awesome. So stay tuned for that.
I may have two or three different ones.
Stay tuned up and tuned in for that, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, last but not least, a couple bullet points as we do at the start and end of the show. First and foremost, again, the playlist. We have a playlist on Spotify called Vin and Phil Show. It has all of the songs that we have talked about in other episodes and all of the songs that we talked about in today's episode. So please.
That thing's got to be pretty long now.
It's definitely getting longer and longer. Eventually, what's going to happen, hopefully, is that we will hit a point where we have multiple playlists for each season so that you can jump into the season 1 playlist and follow along to the season 2 playlist. We're working our way up. This is episode 7, man. I don't know what the rules are about seasons.
I'm loving it.
You know, we'll decide when a season is a season. So
yeah, I'm having a great time doing these every week, and
hell yeah,
it
man.
makes me think about music that I don't listen to anymore and miss. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, not that I don't listen to it anymore, but like, it's like, you know, so much of my life is consumed with blues and with shitty rock tunes for kids for work, you know?
I hear
so
you.
it's like,
the stuff that
I
we
like
love.
doing this because it gets me like listening to other shit, you know, thinking about other shit. And then now, like, I notice like my drives like to work and shit, like I'm listening to other things, and it's a good thing, man. It's always good to be well-rounded listener.
Oh, dude, I listened to Alice in Chains this week for sure. You best believe I listened to the Rooster.
Mark talk about them last week.
You best believe I listened to the Rooster, man.
I know.
Well, so check out that playlist. It's an awesome playlist. It's just to listen to, but again, also follow along while watching the show, and you'll be able to check out some of the stuff. You know, I was pretty specific about some of the stuff I was talking about in Jessica. It may not make sense. Vin had to go take a listen. You know, that'll help you out.
Yeah.
It's definitely the way to go. Yeah.
You'll be glad you did too.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
So the next bullet point is that Vin and I both are working musicians, and if you want to put a little love in our cup,
please do.
We both have Venmo accounts, and mine is Phil@Phil-Silverberg, silver like the metal, BERG, and Vin's is @Vincent-Mott, MOTT. That's 2 T's for those of you that can count.
Applesauce.
That's right. And last but not least, Vin and I both have music out, and you should definitely go check it out. Vin has a new full-on EP that he did all of by himself, except for playing the bass, but that we won't even count that. The reality is he did the whole thing himself. And I have a new song out called Oolong under my artist name, Lo-Fi, L-O-P-H-I, and that's on all streaming services. The links for both of our music will be in the description below. And that about wraps it up. Great episode today, man.
Love it. They just get better and better, and to be honest, I don't know how you're feeling, but it gets easier for me.
Hey, man.
Like it's like I feel like I'm in a rhythm, you know?
Just a conversation with the homie, man.
Just a conversation with the homie. Yeah.
So
this is how it all started. See, before I moved to Texas, before COVID, we would just do this in your basement with Mick watching TV on the couch.
Well,
this is just
very similar.
Putting it on broadcast.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, Vin, and that being said, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned, tune it up, and tuned in with Vin and Phil. We'll catch you next time.
Yes, sir. See you then.